Eres frutos de mis manos, sin ver mi humanidad. Si gozas de mi trabajo, yo merezco igualdad.
Antes del amanecer dentro de este centro de empleo en Pasadena, California, un pequeño grupo de jornaleros preparan su día de trabajo. Pero en lugar de palas y martillos, para ellos las herramientas son una mezcladora de sonido.
Quiero que mi voz escuche. No silencies, jornalero. Quiero que mi voz escuche. El grito de libertad. Quiero que mi voz escuche. Como la razón del viento. Quiero que mi voz escuche. La verdad de su existencia.
Una emisora de radio de California hecha por jornaleros y para jornaleros. Esta nueva plataforma busca informar, entretener y empoderar a los trabajadores que muchas veces no tienen espacio para expresarse.
En Radio Jornalera no restamos ni dividimos, sumamos corazones.
Que tu voz escuche.
Buenas noches a todos, todas y todes. Gracias por estar aquí en un programa más con Radio Jornalera, la radio del pueblo y para el pueblo. Muchas gracias por conectarse. Les vamos a pedir que por favor empiecen a mandar sus mensajes, el link en el WhatsApp, en los chats, en todo lado, que empiecen a mandar esos mensajitos. Vamos a estar hablando con dos invitados sobre cómo tener el acceso a los college, a las universidades, para que usted tenga acceso a la educación para la gente, para la comunidad indocumentada, cuáles son los challenges, y vamos a estar con este programa una vez al mes para que usted pueda conocer qué es lo que está pasando, cuáles son los requisitos, cómo trabajamos como comunidad. Entonces, vamos a estar hablando de diferentes temas, así que por favor empieza a compartir. Thank you so much for connecting. Please start to sharing. We're going to talk about how we access to college as an undocumented community. I was undocumented for almost 10 years and it was hard for me to go to college. And now we have so much accessibility, so much open up programs that we can be part of it. So I'm super, super glad and super excited to start this Undocu program, Undocu show in Radio Jornalera. I wanted to introduce Angela. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome, Angela. And I also wanted to welcome Marcos. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
It's a high pleasure for us to having you guys. And I know it feels a little tense, so let's just shake ourselves. And I want to start with you, Angela. Would you please tell us your name, your position, and a little bit of your background? And we want to know what's your background.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you for all you do. This is urgent and important work, and I'm really lucky to be a part of it. Glad to be here. My name is Angela Kariotis. I work at Brookdale Community College. My title is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion, and I also manage something called the Community College Opportunity Grant. That's all very vague, right? What I do is try to bring people together. I come to my position as an artist, as someone who believes in creativity to help to try to create the world that we all really want to live in, a world that benefits everyone.
Beautiful. Marcos, tell us a little bit about your position, your name, and your nationality, your background.
Sure. My name is Marcus Rodriguez. I am the son to a Puerto Rican father and an Ecuadorian mom who emigrated to the United States in the 60s. They met just out of high school, got married in college, and my mother literally went to college with my brother strapped to her back. Back then, they didn't have child care services. In fact, she was one of the first students to create a child care program at New York University.
Where in Ecuador your parents from?
My mom is born, I believe, in Guayaquil.
Oh, beautiful.
And her mother and her father came from Quito. So
beautiful.
Two different cities.
The Ecuador power. And also we have on los controles, Jorge Terreros. Thank you for being here, for helping us. So, Angela, tell us a little bit, Angela, about how and why you like to do this job, and what is diversity, because we talk a lot about diversity, and it is actually someone that gets paid, when this should be just a culture, right? To like diversity, and someone that actually gets paid to make this happen.
Sure. So my position, along with positions that share that title, it's a tremendous amount of responsibility, and we're really tasked with doing the work that the entire institution or any organization should really do. That's a whole different conversation to have. So the first thing that I have to say is, why is diversity important? In nature, we see an ecosystem. In any kind of natural ecosystem, there are different parts of life, and they all find ways to cohabitate together. In nature, one piece or one thing depends on the other, right? There's a natural equilibrium there. In our United States of America, because we are a nation built on genocide and slavery and white supremacy, and we've not yet reckoned with that past, there's been a lot of harm that still exists to this day because of it. So these positions have proliferated, especially in the last 2 years, in the uprising, the racial justice uprising that we've seen with the murder of George Floyd, have proliferated positions like mine, because finally, though it's not a perfect effort, institutions are trying to figure out how to course correct and how to go into rightness. So my position, I try to bring conversation to the table, to have really honest, personal conversation of how to change, not personally, but also institutionally. It's these issues are not about how we feel about each other, but about the way that we do the work. Doing the work in healthy ways to course correct.
How long?
That's a long
how,
answer,
how
but I
long?
had
No,
to be
that's fine.
honest. I
Beautiful,
had to be
beautiful.
honest with
And
it.
how long have you been in this position?
I laugh because I feel like I've been here forever, and in the last 5 minutes, I've only been here for 1 year,
Beautiful.
and I feel like in 1 year I've done
A lot.
a lot of work. At
Right.
least I'm trying to.
And to your point, I mean, it is a lifelong. You're either about it or you're not, I think. And I come to it as a educator. 24 years as an educator, superintendent, saw that it was a necessary thing for the entire school system to have an office dedicated to diversity, to equity, to inclusion, so that marginalized populations do not.
And what's that for you, Marcos? Tell me a little bit. What's diversity,
Sure.
inclusion?
So
what is those?
So what is it?
What is
does
that
it
for
mean?
you specifically? Don't give me the concept of.
No.
So
Specifically,
just for yourself.
So specifically, what it means is I work in a school system, right? And so I particularly serve a population that is very diverse, one of the most diverse student populations outside of New York City, with a population of Hispanic and Spanish-speaking people up to 70%, to be exact, Portuguese, Chinese. And Caucasian. So we're talking cultural diversity at its finest, and we're also talking about different points of views and different walks of understanding from generations of the town that I work in. That town that I work in was founded in the 1800s.
Wow.
And it took 174 years for us to have our first Puerto Rican superintendendent. That is also happens to be a graduate of that same school system. So he saw it growing up. He's seen the differences, and he's seen the diversity and the need for it. Right.
Yeah. So when you talk about diversity and equality and inclusion, Angela, is actually that you can achieve is actually something that you can achieve in Brookdale, for example, right now. It is a process that is coming out with a lot of workshops, education, because I imagine that it's not just like, yeah, let's talk about equality and inclusion, because those can be just also concepts, right? Like how you can actually make it happen intentionally, and how it's actually happening in Brookdale.
Right. So the idea of how do we operationalize our values? What does it look like? What are the actions that we take? So a lot of that is happening right now. We're in a really unique position. We're working on something called a strategic plan, and we are everyone across the entire campus system is trying to figure out. And when I say trying to figure out, that's a beautiful thing. The idea of wrestling through this work of what does equity look like. And equity means fairness, right? People getting what it is that they need. Equality is the opposite of equity, right? So we're trying to figure out what does that look like in our policies, our practices, our procedures, and our protocol, the day-to-day mundane work of being in a space. We're trying to lay all the pieces out on the table and parsing it back and trying to figure out, is this accessible? So the questions that we're leading with is, who does this benefit?
Who has access?
Who has access? Who does this benefit, and who is left out?
Marcus, I want to go back a little bit with you to the point where in your career, or actually probably high school, college, I'm not sure, but that's the question. When the break point start, when you start saying, no, I want to do something around this issue, I think we need to have more access. I think we need to have the first Puerto Rican. Like, when was that?
It happened organically over the course of my 24-year career. I began as a teacher, and I taught K through 6, K through 8. And what happened was that I found myself advocating for families that spoke another language and didn't.
How old were you? How old?
I began my career as a teacher at 25.
Wow.
Yeah. So right away, I would be the teacher that was called on to do translations for parent-teacher workshops. My mom, who was an established educator before me at that district, she actually did a lot of the groundwork.
Beautiful.
When she first started there in 1983, would actually go door to door to parents' homes, and they would invite her in, and she would have.
What
coffee.
did you remember about your mom when you were little?
I mean, I remember, first of all, that she would take me with her, right?
Of course, yeah.
So I was in 4th grade or something like that, and she was actually teaching English to the parents of her students. She taught bilingual classes to students, and then she would go into their homes and teach the parents.
Beautiful.
And she developed this kind of grassroots relationship with the families of that city, which to this day holds strongly. So I can walk any neighborhood in Long Branch and be like, Marcus Rodriguez, are you related to Sarah Rodriguez? Yeah, that's my mom. I thought so. You look just like her. And, she taught my mom how to read. And how amazing is that? How beautiful is that? And so that seed of giving, that seed of lifting, is really where I got it from. And so,
what about you, Angela? Tell us a little bit. When was that break point?
Sure. So I've always done this work. So remember, I do this work as an artist, and I've always been an artist. I'm a child of immigrants. My family immigrated to the United States in 1968. My family, we're island people from Greece. We're farmers. So coming here, I'm the first in my family to graduate, to go to college and to graduate. And we're working class, blue collar people. So we work for a living. So I believe that the root of all struggle is working class struggle, because that's the nature of my upbringing. And that's a mentality that I still have. So I have a very unique positionality in growing up. I'm an artist. That means I write and I speak and I tell stories and I write poems. And a lot of the creative work that I do is in solidarity with others, rooted in class struggle, working class stories, hyphenated American, not being one fully and not being the other fully, really having dreams in two different worlds. So all of my creative work, and also as an intellectual, as a scholar, I'm also an educator. I'm a teaching artist. I go into different schools and I work with youth on how to tell their stories and their personal narratives as an act of resistance. So I've always done that, and I've managed to create a life for myself that led me to the unique position where I am now. It really
Beautiful.
is by accident, but I'm lucky for it.
Beautiful. That's when I said that when you do the things that you love, and then we are so lucky to live out of the things that we love to do, so we don't feel that we're working sometimes. But that's actually sometimes a key where you tend to work a lot and then you don't put those limits because you love what you do,
Right.
right?
So to your point, it's not work, right? So we call it just living, you know. And if you're doing it right, people can't tell whether you're working or having fun. It should look the same.
You were telling me, Marcos, a little bit that your job is a little different. How do you think you achieve the environment of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Long Branch public schools? Tell me a
So
little bit about that.
so it's a process, and it's not something that any one person can do by themselves. The very first thing that I wanted to do, and what I was successful in doing, is getting interest from different stakeholders, different teachers, different principals, different students, parents, even. And we came together as a council, as a district wide, school system wide council, and we said, okay, we want to create an avenue, a space for students and for families and for administrators, for anybody to be able to speak on matters of equity, speak on matters of diversity, speak on
Beautiful.
inclusion. And so in order to do that, every school in the system, there's 11 in total, needs a body, needs a community to do that. So I formed a district-wide council, and this year we're beginning to form individual pockets at every school.
Beautiful.
And then eventually, after this year is through, student councils will develop that are basically all about that work.
Especially in these moments, right? Like when we're living in the moments where, you know, racism is I like to say that it's like kind of raising again, back again. White supremacy is talking back again, and sometimes it used to make us uncomfortable to talk about white supremacy. Now is we have to talk about it. We have to mention it, whether we like it or not. This is happening in our schools. Shootings are happening in schools. I was just in another country where I was sharing with some of the parents that sometimes I'm afraid to send my daughter to school because of a shooting, and in that country they don't even know what shooting is. Like they haven't even ever experienced. So Angela, tell me a little bit about what are the barriers, the issues that undocumented students face when they are willing to go and sign up for education.
Sure. So there's a few things. I think that staff and faculty could be a little more knowledgeable of how to serve those students, and sometimes all you have to do is ask, right? So what might it be like if we had an open conversation? But that requires vulnerability too, right? That means you have to share who you are and how you're here, and you have to share what it is that you need. And I think it sounds simple, but you have to ask people what they need, and then you have to give it to them. So there's humility on the part of employees to get to know who these students are, but also create safe space for those students to feel okay and good about revealing themselves. And then the other side is that those students, there has to be a space where you do reveal yourself. For example, there's financial aid available, but a lot of students do not want to apply for it because they feel a particular vulnerability on revealing their status. But unless you do that and work with your financial aid coordinator, you'll never be able to apply for the resources that are available to you.
I wanted to share a story. I went to college, and this person that it was my the guide, and the one who was supposed to be guiding me, the counselor, she told me, she was white, right? And she was like, I don't speak Spanish. And I was like super hard with my English. And she was like, oh my God, I can't understand you. So I had to like repeat it myself, and I feel super uncomfy. But anyway, I applied with a fake social security number. They gave me a scholarship because I was playing soccer, and then they canceled my scholarship because they find out. And that was such a bad advice. And I was like, I can't believe it that happened to me. Then I went to a community college, so I have to like, pay. And back then, I'm talking about around 2005, 2007. It was not the if you are undocumented, you have to pay the tuition. It was not tuition free. And I went to college in Connecticut, so I have to work a full time and a part time in order to pay one class. One, I remember ESL class. It was like my ESL classes. It was so expensive. Tell me a little bit about that, Marcus. How
Well,
is how
you're
you
speaking
what do
about
you
a
think about
reality.
that?
You think you're speaking about a reality that exists even for students that are as young as 15, 16 years old that come to this country and who really it's all hands on deck when they arrive. Every family member is trying to work to survive. And it's not uncommon for a 14, 15, 16-year-old student to not only have to come to school, but also take care of a sibling before they get to school and run and then go to work either before or after school. And so that's just the reality that many of our students face. And so what do we do? How do we address it is the answer, is the question rather. And what we are doing as a school system is we're putting people in positions of power that can help these students, particularly people who are knowledgeable in social and emotional learning and emotional support. So we have a person that's dedicated entirely to educating and to providing programming for not just the students, but for the teachers and for the parents, methods on how to find balance, how to find emotional balance, how to find social balance, and at the same time, so they can be focused on school, right? We also have a believe it or not, a yoga instructor for the entire district, a wellness instructor.
Sometimes we forget about those part, right?
So, and this is all about equity. It's all about access. It's not a common thing. When's the last time you heard of a Latin family having access to a yoga class?
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was gonna say. It's super, intentionally, when you talk about it is so expensive to actually get therapy. Most of the undocumented community has a lack of access to health, right, and to some basic things.
And not to mention the stigma that has surrounded it, right? Especially in cultures where it's very difficult to have that conversation about emotional wellness and about psychological wellness.
So, Angela, you wanna? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, if I may, part of my position, I'm really lucky too to be able to present work like that. So, I actually present yoga, and I present meditation, and I present every month, and it's free and open to the public. And I'm presenting a drama therapist for 7 sessions for free and open to the public. I think we talked about it, like how can I present the drama therapist at the Long Branch location, so people in that area can access it and have this conversation about the stigma of mental health, but also racialized stress in higher education. You can't talk about wellness without talking about the things that are making us so unwell, and the way and systems are creating and interlocking oppressions that people are having to suffer. So I just had to name that there are so many programs free and open to the public.
And the thing of why we are actually having access to it, and somebody just like think about it like this is something that we need. The fact that we are doing that work is when we're making changes, especially now when the cost of going to college, the cost of living, in New York City, you can you have to pay $2,000 for a small room in order to go to college, right? How is the
Yeah, can I talk about?
Yeah, go ahead.
If
I love it. No, but my question was to it is a way, or you guys have talk or has any help with the tuition cost?
Sure. So good segue, good transition into what I'd like to say. Four-year college and universities make their profit off of the debilitating debt of students. So students have to go into debt to go to these 4-year schools in order for those 4-year schools to succeed. And I went to one. So I'm saying this with a tremendous amount of knowing how I come to this conversation. But because I believe in education, I will also critique how it functions, right?
Beautiful.
So higher education creates brands like Dolce & Gabbana or Karl Lagerfeld, like these name brands. So people grow up thinking that they have to go to a particular school in order to get a good education. And that particular school might cost a lot of money. And now you're going into debt. And that is an American tradition, right? Normalizing debt. And it doesn't have to be that way. So community college for me is rooted in class solidarity, just because there's a difference between what something costs and what something is worth. So there's a value and there's a smart way to handle it, right? And not enough people talk about it. You can go to community college, and every county in New Jersey, and there are many community colleges in other states. You can go to community college as a full-time, part-time, one class, online classes, in person, whatever it might be, at a fraction of the cost, and then you can transfer to a 4-year school if that's what it is that you want to go to. So one of the things that I'm here to talk about is tuition free Brookdale. brookdalecc.edu/tuition free, where you can it's free tuition and certain fees for anyone in a household making under $80,000 a year.
And maybe we can just put it underneath of the screen, the website, so people can start getting to know, and you can just start sharing, right? Maybe sometimes you don't know what to post, then post these things, like get it to know us. Like, this is the way we are creating community. Also, colleges that believe in independent media, right? And this kind of programs and this kind of shows. So please keep supporting us, keep sharing. We need to get this out there. What is? I think you were gonna say something
on that
part. Yeah.
We've partnered with Brookdale Community College and on many levels, and one of the things that we've done is give our students access early. So, as you know, many of our students, they don't speak English as a first language, so they're learning English as they go. They might arrive to us as juniors or seniors or sophomores, and they have to take certain exams to take the coursework and pass English proficiency. Well, what we've done is we've partnered with Brookdale to give our students an opportunity to take courses that are remedial, that'll get them ready, college ready, right? So that by the time they're
Start in high school.
right, so that by the time they graduate, they have some courses already in their under their belt from Brookdale, and maybe they don't have to take the remedial course anymore. They can go straight into the regular coursework like any other student, and that's taken some navigation, that's taken some cooperation from our respective organizations.
And I love this because we always think about the student, and I think that the part of thinking about the youth and the high school, and we're gonna have these shows once a month, so you guys can keep thinking about and get to know more about how you can help out the students. But also, my I wanted to ask this question. I remember, and I'm talking about because of my experience. I remember that my mom and my dad didn't know nothing about college, right? They were working 2 full times. My mom was working another 2 full times. I was the only one who was like, yes, I need to do this, I need to do that. And my desire was, because I was undocumented, and my only resources that time, it was either I go back to my country that I didn't know because I was 16 years old when I came here, and probably I'm gonna have to pursue my college there, but I was not gonna be able to see my parents, I don't know for how long. So what is that you guys are doing as a Brookdale to also reach out to those families, to those mixed families, to those families that probably had their son, daughter in senior year, and they have to be thinking about getting them on college?
So we're starting early, actually. We reached out to each other. As she told you, she's been in her position for 1 year. I've been in my position now for two years. And we reached out to each other immediately because in the state of New Jersey, believe it or not, there's not too many people that are in the position of diversity, equity, and inclusion as directors, as officers. And so
I was doing those research too, yeah.
So
yeah.
we're very few, right? We're like unicorns.
Beautiful.
And so one of the first things that we did was I wanted to bring those students in particular, those the most vulnerable students, to come and meet Angela, to come and meet students that look like them, that experience like them. And so we've done multiple trips already in the last year and a half, 2 years, where we will bring our sophomores, our juniors, our seniors, come and visit the community campus, the college community campus, and they will have conversations with students that are in the same building.
But my question was, what about their parents? Like,
Right.
what are you guys are doing with the parents?
So to your point, there is a bilingual community within our school system, a bilingual parent advisory committee. Parents are actively involved. In fact, English as a second language classes are free to our parents. And it's in those communities where they begin to work together, speak with each other, and get resources. The community comes to them. They contact people like Angela. They contact immigration lawyers to come through and will, as part of their English class, come through and have a conversation about things that matter to them most.
I think Angela wanted to
Yeah.
point that out too.
College doesn't do a very good job at integrating families. That's just like across the
Across
board,
everywhere,
right?
yeah.
Across the board. So for me, the way I approach it is you can't have diversity, or if you want to have diversity and inclusion, the best way to do that is to integrate families. Because when we're talking about culture, we're talking about collectivist culture. That's family. So for me, one of the responsibilities that I've tasked myself with is to try to find a really good answer to your question. So what might it be like for us to have a Brookdale Day one day where we have the students that you brought to campus
Yes.
to bring their families with them next time, right?
Sure.
And to have an intergenerational, a multi-generational welcoming, diversity by welcoming, a radical welcoming on our campus. That has not happened yet, but I'm saying that it is important for that to happen. So there's no rift, there's no separation between the child's experience in schooling and the family feeling like they're not a part of that, because I had that rift
I know,
between,
yeah.
and how can we bring everybody into that space? We hope to do that.
What about nonprofit organizations? Like, how is that relationship, the marketing with nonprofit, local nonprofit? Because most of the parents actually goes to those nonprofits, right? We call it worker centers in some cities
centers,
and
yeah.
some yeah. What are you
For
guys
sure.
doing
Yeah,
around that?
So 100%. So the same way it's important for me to partner with K through 12 schools, it's important for me to to partner with nonprofits. So I work with organizations like Casa Freehold, 180 Turning Lives Around, the YMCA, Monmouth Cares, and all their social service organizations, especially the ones that serve youth, stigma-free mental health, and integrated care concepts. So different organizations in the county. Salvation Army was the last connection that we made. And what we do is, how can I bring the message of tuition-free Brookdale to the people that you serve? So there's one-to-one contact. So we're building wraparound services with each other. How can you come or bring your community to our campus so you could participate in some of the free, open to the public events that we have? So it could be a professional development for you, for the people that you love, so we could talk to each other. We're not working separately, but we're working collaboratively. I'm very lucky that in the past year, there's been a tremendous bond, and even our students are benefiting. Like now I'm thinking, how can Brookdale students learn about you and the radio and find out what's going on here so we could continuously build? But there is that relationship, yes.
And actually, that was something that I wanted to kind of closing up this conversation, going there. Is it still that stigma that teachers, staff around colleges, not just specifically about Brookdale, but around colleges, that, and maybe Marcus, you can answer this a little bit better, but that they don't have this connection with the community, that they just go there. My wife is a teacher, and she always tell me there's some teacher and some teachers, right? We know that there's still those teachers that they don't have the connection with the community. They don't know that that the student is going through this, that it is mental health issues, that is work issues, that sometimes they come to college not eating. They come to college thinking about, I remember I used to go to college not thinking about paying the rent and helping my parents paying the rent.
So to your point, the state of New Jersey has been very proactive with respect to trying to make sure that equity and diversity is forefront in education. So much so that they passed a law requiring that teachers get educated on, number one, culturally diverse instruction. So what does it mean to connect with a student that's culturally diverse, and how do you do that? And part of my job is to train and do presentations for teachers and for administrators on just that, and also bias, right? Unconscious bias. That was actually the first thing that the state of New Jersey said you have to teach teachers about, because
Beautiful.
from those two things stems a lot of the issues that you're
But
speaking.
is it real? Like, is it happening, or is still, we still need to do more work?
100%. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. And is it a fact? Absolutely. If you look back to your own college experience, where the guidance counselor wasn't connecting with you, that is systemic. It's not just about that one particular pocket. It's systemic, and it happens at many schools throughout our state and throughout the country.
Beautiful. What do you think, Angela?
Yeah, I think there's a lot on the shoulders of teachers. And I really am interested in challenging power, the people who have the real power, right? The people who make laws and the people who in administration and people who create a particular climate. So I think that there's a lot to be said about putting the onus or the responsibility on people in power for making these shifts. I think if there's one thing that I want to tell people, or one thing that I look at it, is the way that we have been living does not need to be the way that we need to continue to live. All right. And there is a difference between education and schooling. And right now we're focusing a lot on schooling and the rigidity of schooling. We can be rigorous and intense and committed to our learning without being rigid. So I think even what we think about as the school day and the way that we learn, and the fluorescent lights and the seat and the desk and the uncomfortable chair and the don't move and the don't touch, and you're going to sit straight and look at the teacher who's in the center, like even the architecture of the way that we learn can dramatically, absolutely change. But what it takes is imagination right now. And school is not a great place to grow your imagination. So I think I'm lucky to come to this work as an artist, because creativity is exactly what it is, what we need right now to create a different kind of mural of what our day-to-day looks like.
And not just the mural, but different kind of world. It's just some of us that believe that this world we can change it. And some of them, I remember, like, I had a lot of people in my entire career where they can just tell me, like, no, what are you doing? Like, it's actually something, organizing, getting this, doing that, getting an organization.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
This, that, what are you doing? Like, is it for real? Do you really think that you're gonna make changes? And I think so.
The superintendent that I spoke of earlier, my superintendent, Francisco Rodriguez, he had a vision, and he made it district wide. And our mantra is "Juntos podemos."
Beautiful.
Together we can. Together we can be the change, and he means it. And what he means by that is simply this: we can't be the units of change by ourselves. I have to work in community with everyone around me to make this work, to make it happen. And so, like never before, our school system is reaching out and branching out with city government, with universities, with everybody and anybody that can give our children access and opportunity. And it seems to be working.
I think also it is a big disadvantage in paying teachers now what they deserve. I think, like, the teachers, they make so little money to actually the work that they do. So I think it's also important to challenge those things. But Angela, I wanted to if you can just give us some final words. But before that, can you tell us what is coming every month? Tell us why we're doing this, what are the other shows, why people should watch it, why people should be engaged in these coming shows.
Sure. So this is UndocuAlly, the first Monday of every month from now. We're the inaugural show. We're glad to be here until May. You'll have different leaders. You'll have students. You have alumni. We'll have professors. We'll have staff and employees from Brookdale Community College who will introduce themselves to the audience as a way to create comfort and familiarity, but also let you get to know about resources. There's so many resources and opportunity available, but somehow awareness sometimes is our biggest challenge. And also to share stories. When you get to know the people that work at our school and their love and their intention and their dedication, that might create a comfort as a way to reach out, the first step to reach out to who might be our future students. So this is a way to get to know Brookdale Community College, our leaders, so you can feel comfortable on maybe joining our community and also getting to know the resources, especially tuition-free Brookdale, the ability to go to college for free.
Beautiful. And also we are so glad to partnership with Brookdale. And we also are wanted to recognize publicly, Angela, that we are happy to have this kind of opportunity also to take that to the public and especially to the undocumented community. Marcos, if you can just give us some final words, some an advice maybe to the people that are listening to us, to the undocumented students. If you want to do it in Spanish and English,
Sure.
it's up to you. But give us some final words. Why is important not just to make those connections, right? Not just with the students, but also with families, with parents, with community organizations, like you said, Juntos Podemos. Why is important to do this
Lo que
work?
te voy a decir es esto, no importa quién seas, de dónde vienes, solamente como tú hay una persona en todo este mundo, en todo el tiempo, en toda la historia del mundo, solamente una persona, solamente una. Tú tienes valor. Tú tienes valor. In all the history of the world, there's only ever going to be one you. And you matter. That's the message. You matter. You make a difference no matter how small. And I learned it from public speaker Reggie Dabbs, who's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He speaks to 2 million people plus a year. And the message is simple. No matter who you are, where you're from, what your story is, you have value and you matter and you can make a difference in the world that we live in, which is why the work that we do as directors and officers of equity and diversity is so important, and we'll never stop doing it because you matter, you have value. And I want you to know that, I want you to understand that, and I want you to hang on to that always.
Beautiful. Angela, so if you want to just also close up with some words. Number one, why is important to have independent media? Because sometimes folks would not give us this this chance to have and have these conversations around and also to challenge the system that we live in, but also a message to the student that wants to achieve an education, and sometimes they feel frustrated. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. What would be your message to them?
Sure. I think there is something to be said about anger, and to validate it. There's a lot to feel angry about, and there's a lot to be frustrated about, but you could metabolize that. What that means is to change it into energy, to push forward, because movements are built and won by consistent, persistent pressure. And media like this helps you find your people, right? It helps you feel validated. You're not the only one, to not feel alone, and to also get another side of the story, your side of the story, a true narrative. Life is narrative. Life is story. So media outlets like this, and we are proud to support it. This is truth, a forefront to truth. Listening to these other stories and these other perspectives as a way to know that you are not alone. Let us find each other in the movement forward, because the world we make will be ours.
Beautiful. Thank you so much to you too for coming to coming here. This is UndocuAlly, and we are going to be every Monday 6 p.m. every Monday, once a month. Please get to know us. Please share this information. Share this link. Also, we are in Spotify and YouTube and all our social media. Now we also are in TikTok. So please sharing. And thank you for being here. And this is the first show, and we formally saying that we're gonna have more shows and more and more and more. So let's give it a round of applause. Thank you and have a great night.
Somos el vínculo para educar, empoderar y organizar a las comunidades migrantes. Queremos defender nuestros derechos civiles y humanos. Si eres estudiante, jornalero, trabajadora doméstica o te interesa conocer más sobre tus derechos, síguenos en nuestras diferentes plataformas. Somos Radio Jornalera New Jersey.